In today's episode, Nancy arrives with a lot of questions. And as we talk about the questions, we realize that life is constant questions. And even if we find an answer in one moment that seems assuring to us and safe to us, it actually just brings us to more questions. And so what I think we discover in this podcast is that life is perpetual mysteries, perpetual questions, and it's okay, and it's safe, and it's pretty exciting to be in the questions. We don't need answers.
Welcome to Expansive Minds Podcast, Gateway to Freedom, a podcast where two friends, Aileen and Nancy, explore and expand beyond what they think they know in order to live a life of freedom. Thank you for joining us, and away we go.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Aileen. We're just talking about, we're tired. We're tired because we didn't sleep.
The moon is getting us.
I just happened to say to her, I said,
Kapow.
for some reason last night, and I'm big on my sleep protocols, and I was still just, I think I finally closed my eyes at 2:30.
Yeah.
And then Aileen said, oh, it's the moon. I'm like, what? So full moon makes you...
A lot of energy. Yeah, that, sort of the mythical story of the werewolf.
Yeah.
That's and working in a nursing home for a while, keeping an eye on the amazing residents, you could really see them getting jazzed up and fired up full moon.
Yeah.
Because it has an effect on the tides.
Right.
We're water. We've talked before. We're water.
Right, lunatic. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Nancy,
but I didn't
good
realize
leap.
it like affected sleep. That's what I just said. So yes.
First, at some points, sure.
Gotcha. So I'm crashing. So, but we're gonna summon our second wind. So set the intention.
Great.
All right. So we set the intention to laugh and to be channels of love and light and upliftment, and to explore with the intent of not necessarily needing to know the answers, but just hoping that we uplift all. And so it is. Because we were trying to decide what should we talk about, and we didn't have anything to talk about, but then as we were talking, we were like talking about something.
Exactly.
So, I was saying that I have been around a lot of deaths lately, and I had gone to a service on Monday, and Aileen came straight from a service, and the one, like, it just, these sudden death things are a little freaky to me, and it's really easy to get caught up in, oh my God, something's happening, and some people say, oh, it's COVID, it did damage to us. And some people say, no, it's the vaccine, it did damage to us. And then you just said, people are just leaving. People's just going. It's a wave. I'm like, what do you mean by wave?
Right. So a couple of years ago, I noticed through social media, which is really kind of cool in a lot of ways, on my Facebook feed, I'm seeing like, oh, this person's dog died, this person's dog died. Oh, like lots of dogs were dying. And lots of cats, and I'm like, whoa! All these animals are dying in this like chunk of time, like very close chunk of time. And I thought, there's a reason for this, right? That's the part where we talk about more to be revealed and being open instead of shutting down and coming up with the judgment, like you're saying, like it was the COVID, it was the COVID, it was the jab. It was like, well, no, let's sit back and see what unfolds. So what I noticed, this was years ago, was that I had a feeling that there was a plan. I'm like, this is just, there's something going on here. And then not long after that, there was a natural disaster in another country. And I thought, oh, this is interesting.
What does that have to do with animals in your area dying?
Because time and space is an illusion.
Okay.
And the consciousness, energy never dies, it just changes shape, right?
Yep.
And I brought it back to a experience I had around, I forget the year, but it was when Japan had a big tsunami. And it was before the tsunami hit. It was 2 or 3 days before that, and a lot of my clients were feeling anxiety. And I said, note, something is going to happen on the globe. The globe, there will be a natural disaster. I tend to notice it, a correlation with a natural disaster at that point anyway, that we can feel it. And there's been experiments and viewing and watching animals shift and change, across the globe when a natural disaster happens somewhere else.
Huh.
They talk about cows, like animals that will react to something that's happening in their area, but they've also seen it at distances.
Yeah.
So I'm saying to my clients, okay, notice something is up. And then early in the morning, I got a text from a client that said, I know what it is. Japan had a tsunami. And that made sense because I had this strange dream, and we can talk at some point about the way I'm discerning dreams. Like when I'm asleep, they feel different for different reasons. Okay. So over the years, I've been able to be like, oh, that's me psychically or telepathically connecting to someone. This is, they all feel a little different nuances. Okay. So anyway, I knew that the dream I had that night, while I was asleep, it wasn't like a dream-like state, I was actually asleep. In my dream, I saw I was looking out a big window, and I saw this, it looked like a tornado, but it was like above the water, and I'm like, this is weird. And then I felt myself really tippy, and there was a little girl that I grabbed onto, and I got her down some stairs and out the stair, like out front. And I just kept saying to her, I have you, you're safe. And then I woke up to a text about the tsunami, and then I was telling my friend about it, and she had seen a picture of a water
funnel thing, yeah.
And she sent it to me, and she said, and it was a very similar view, it was through a window.
Oh, that's
and she
cool.
said, I saw this, and it reminds me of what you explained to me. And I was like, oh, okay, so my consciousness was there.
Yeah, dreams are a whole.
Our consciousness leaves us. It's not like if we think it's like just all consolidated all night where we're sleeping, I don't believe that's true.
Right.
So that's why animals, when they're out of their bodies,
yes,
it's like, how cool that animals could go and give support and warmth. You hear people say all the time, like, I went flying out of that car. For all purposes, I should be dead. I don't know how they found me over here and I was alive.
Yeah.
Right?
So this was the question we were talking about, was how much say do you have in it, right? So we were talking about you said somebody that Kirstie Alley died, or some famous person died, and really fast from cancer, and we look at our Louise Hay book, and it's resentment, and this is a question that I've never gotten an answer to. So if somebody is sick and they're not getting better, is it that they end up passing because they haven't got their alignment, or are they passing because they chose this path of illness to leave, and it was all part of the plan? So.
It's right. That's the curious thing. I think one of the curious things. So, number one, we're all going to leave our Earth suits.
I
at
love
this juncture.
that Earth suits. I love that. Yeah.
So to have negative judgment or any judgment on somebody who dies, whether it's suicide, drug overdose, cancer, Parkinson's, it's like, okay, let's lay off the judgments because we're leaving the planet. Actually, my grandmother, amazing story about my grandmother, my Irish grandmother, she kept saying, throughout the years, I just want to die in a car accident. I want it quick, fast, over with. And she was a tough broad, my grandmother, but we had a soft bond. We became pen pals, and cool stuff happened. But anyway, amazing, and no surprise that she lived in Florida, and she came to do like a trek. She was like, I'm going to go up and see my Aunt Barbara argue in front of the Supreme Court. Around the same time, my stepsister was having a wedding, and so she comes up from Florida. She does her New York visit. She's from New York. Does this New York visit, comes up, sees all of her kids and her grandkids, like sees everybody, goes back down to Florida, and I think a day or two later, I hear in my answering machine, my Aunt Barbara's kind of like just spitting it out, but like saying, Grandma's dead. And we're like, how could Grandma, she was just here, what happened?
Yeah.
Car accident.
Car accident.
And one of their good friends was driving.
So she kind of manifested this
She
self-fulfilling.
did, and died instantly. She wasn't wearing her seatbelt, as would be true to my tough, broad Irish grandmother. Yeah. And they got hit, and she was in the back seat. She flew across, broke her neck, done. And you're like, well, where's the problem there? She's like, I'm not
So
sticking around for
she
long.
chose her
She chose
her departure method, and and then
And she kept saying she wanted to do that.
But so the healing thing is just fascinating to me, because I was listening to a Cryon talking about how there's a lot that goes on with the healing modality, and you've probably had people that you put on the table and like instantly like results.
Yeah,
and there are people probably that you might have been working on for years who still haven't maybe made a ton of progress. And Cryon was, I didn't finish the lecture, but he was saying something about, well, first off, there has to be consent, right? So
Correct.
the person who's
Agreed.
who has to say, okay, I'm on board with this. But then sometimes even if they say that, you still can't heal. So does that mean that they really
So let's change the word. Look at the word healing. So
Okay.
one of the things, my first teacher in polarity therapy was my first modality. I love this. She said, when you're working with someone who is in this state of existence, right? So we call that dying, right? Actively dying. She said, when someone comes to you, it's not because they're going to stay on the planet. They can heal and leave the planet. Healing has nothing to do with your body form, because your body form you're dropping out of it anyway. Healing is being in this, let's say, a sacred soul alignment and unison with the divine.
Well,
So you can be in unconditional love and still die,
yeah.
right? Just because you're in unconditional love doesn't mean all of a sudden your cancer is going to pop out of your body and be gone forever, or you're going to magically start, have ALS and be like this, and then all of a sudden start talking. I mean, you could, but that doesn't mean. But the healing is healing self-love, maybe healing relationships with the people, letting go of resentment. So the part of being with someone during this particular process of their life is to support them to find ease, right? Because we talk about disease is dis-ease, right? So if we're supporting someone to be in ease, if we're holding the space for their alignment into love,
Yeah.
like how cool, like what a great way for them to then like, whoo,
Well, that's what Abraham says when you croak. She says croak because they make fun of death, because she says there isn't any. So
Right.
But when you croak, you find you're back in that alignment, and then you maybe jump back in again if you choose to.
So some of
Research
these
impact.
things, like this work, is really great. You brought Louise Hay and all of those are important, because I think there are these little messages that say, hey, your cells have, are replicating. Let's say for cancer, your cells are replicating in this really grumpy way because you feel trapped in your life. You have justifiable anger, which is something over the years I've picked up on cancer, which is why I think it can be really hard to get a handle on it, because it's justifiable anger. It's the stuff that it is aggravating, it is upsetting. And then the person gets into the healthcare system, which sometimes can contribute to the justifiable anger, right? They're like waiting for hours, or maybe they don't get the right nurse, so that to me is one of the toughest aspects of it. But to judge it as, and that's what happened when we started finding like, oh, I can have some control or align my thinking to maybe work myself through and out this discomfort, this dis-ease.
Yep.
However, as my very, very first, the person I went to for energy work, he said, sometimes, he said, there's a tear in the spacesuit, and sometimes you just can't fix it.
So then I want to explain with the Louise Hay,
Yeah.
right? So where are we? There we are. Like looking for the camera. So this was like one of my first books. A lot of us, it's like kind of our first book.
Great.
So it talks, like all these books, the author goes into her history and how she came to be. And she says 99 point blah, blah, blah % of people's issues are self-love. That causes people dis-ease is self-worth, self-love. And we've talked of affirmations, and it's interesting when I would do affirmations, I mean, we're talking 12 years ago when I started kind of playing around with this stuff. and it was just hokey, but now the energy is such that they're actual commands to the universe, according to Cryon and a lot of these energy people that are tracking the energy, saying it's in a place where it's never been before. Frequencies are just ripe for working with. But the biggest thing with this book that I go to constantly is in the center of the book is a table. So invariably, a kid will come to me, or I'm feeling something, and I will go into the book, and there are columns. So the first column is the problem, and then the next one is probable cause of the problem. But this is where I think the meat is. I don't even need to know these, is new thought patterns.
Yes.
So just jump right there. Like, so why, because I think it's easy to analyze and get to the bottom, in which we've said there is no bottom. So I'm trying to think, let me get a good one.
Example so people can hear it.
Yeah, let's get a good one.
Because we know, but people who are watching might not know.
Yeah. Do you want to pick a dis-ease, and I'll look it up? You want to pick something? Insomnia.
Okay, go. Yeah, there you go. Go ahead.
Insomnia. Okay.
Besides the full moon, in addition to
besides the full moon, probable cause beside the full moon, fear, not trusting the process of life, and guilt. Now, like I said, I have been fearful lately, seeing all these people just drop like flies. I mean, the insurance companies, life insurance companies, say they have never, ever had payouts like this, ever. Like they're like gonna go bankrupt. Like they are cashing out on so many policies. So for whatever reason, these people leaving the planet, it is a little unnerving to me. So insomnia, probable cause would be fear, not trusting the process of life, or guilt. So the new thought pattern is, I lovingly release the day and slip into peaceful sleep, knowing tomorrow will take care of itself. Oh, that's a beautiful one.
That is beautiful.
I lovingly release the day and slip into peaceful sleep, knowing tomorrow will take care of itself. So that's your abracadabra magic spell, or just new train of thought. And I agree, if you a lot of the intention is, I have to heal myself, but now you're bringing more of attention to the fact that you're not healed.
Yes, there's something wrong.
As opposed to, I want to be comfortable. And this thought process of fear is not comfortable. So lovingly releasing the day into a peaceful sleep feels a lot better.
Exactly.
So subtle, splitting hairs maybe, but different than, I have to heal my insomnia.
Exactly.
Different.
Right. And so Randolph Stone, I say channeled polarity therapy. It's kind of energy work. And he was a osteopathic doctor. He was a chiropractor. I mean, the guy did like all this stuff. And a lot of his language is based in Ayurvedic medicine from India. What I love, we take these tidbits out that are so crucial for each of us. What I loved is, yes, he talked about dis-ease, and I love the terminology. He focused on the words health building and vitality.
Yes.
So instead of saying, I have to heal,
Yes.
or I have an illness, or blah, blah, it's like, oh, I am in a period of focused health building.
Love it.
Right? I'm in a period of, so when people like post or whatever on social media that they're having surgery or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I'm envisioning the vibration of vitality surging through your veins. Because what else do you want to do? Like,
Right.
I mean, not to be rude, but it's kind of like, oh, I'm praying for you. Well, what does that really mean? I'm like, oh, like, no, let it go, let it go,
The new thing I do with folks, because I heard Cryon say now you can do it, you can actually send your inner being and overlay theirs.
So let's go back to the dogs who leave the planet. Why couldn't they go over to another country? Especially if they're out of their bodies. So if you, as an alive person, can take the energy
with my consciousness,
over, why couldn't they then decide?
But they're not as thinking, so they go instead.
They are pretty thinking, considering what my dog just did for me.
Not like a human being thinking. Oh yeah, you think? What did your dog do for you?
Well, so my dog, who just went over the rainbow, right?
Yeah.
A lot of amazing things happened. So one of the things, and I just saw this amazing woman at the service that I was just at. So for me, I had a judgment that I wanted to bring Hattie, my dog, to Vermont and get a vet up there to come to the house in Vermont so she could be my, like, wouldn't that be the best, right? It was not working out. It was not working out. And then I was like, okay, well, this vet hasn't got back to me. This vet doesn't do it. Well, then I'll go to their office on Saturday. And then I said, well, okay, I'll come to your office. You don't do it. She's like, well, we're actually really short staffed, so I can't see you on Saturday. I'm like, wow. So then I have this vibe that one of my daughter's very good friends in 6th grade is a vet. And I have this hit, like, this is the night kind of before I want to, like, I'm moving into this transition because I know Hattie needs to go because she has a lot of dementia. So I texted my daughter and I said, do you think Erin could do this for me? Now, in my brain, I was like, I don't want to bring her into a facility where she's going to be nervous on a hard, steel table with people she doesn't know. Like, I got this whole judgment going on, right? Because I think I know. So I get this hit that I think it's supposed to be Erin. So I wrote to my daughter and she said, Mom, honestly, I immediately thought of Erin. Like, I thought it was supposed to be Erin. I'm like, thank you for the confirmation. So my dog was so smart that she wanted me to go to a person who I knew before she was ever in my life. Because this is my last dog for a little bit. I've had dogs for 40 years.
Wow.
40 years. And then before that, I had a dog that was like my family dog.
Yeah.
But I've been in charge of caretaking a dog for 1 to 3 dogs at a time for 40 years.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So I was like, am I going to emotionally be able to function without a dog? Like, this is going to be weird and hard. I was prepared. I didn't know how smart Hattie was. So I'm like, oh my gosh, Hattie, I'm going to go to someone who I knew way before I ever knew you existed and had you. And there's this sense of continuation that's like, oh, you lived fine without me. You're going to be with this person, and now you're going to be okay without me on the earth plane, my earth suit. And Erin was absolutely phenomenal. And she was like, oh, my office is in Waltham. I thought it was closer. I'm like, oh, what is happening? Plus, the truth is, my dog, with her dementia, she appeared to be more, I don't say with it, but she was more animated when we walked on a new road or we did something new. She really liked that. And so I'm thinking she needs to be in like, oh, this place. She was like, give me an adventure she was part German short-haired pointer, very excited and happy to meet people. So we're waiting outside the office in a place we've never been. She's like, this is great. She's like also like old and half asleep, but she's watching people and she's got a treat in her mouth. And I'm like, exactly, Hattie. Like, exactly, Hattie. This is exactly what we should be doing. And Erin is I'm like, I coached her in soccer for years. And an adorable story about Erin is that when I coached sports on Nantucket, and I had to break through a very strong male-dominated, patriarchal, this is the way we coach sports. And I think I was probably one of, if not the first female coach on the island.
Oh, wow.
Right, and I just came in like, I grew up playing soccer with boys. I was like, I'm a soccer coach, I'm a soccer player. What are you guys talking about? So I had worked my way in Nantucket to finally be kind of tolerated the way that I coached and put girls all on my team, and they're just like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, I'm coaching successful teams. I don't know what you're talking about. So then I moved back to Bedford. That's where I got housing. And so I'm like, okay, I'm about to coach a team of 6th grade girls who I do not know any of them except for my own daughter. And I was like, I'm just going to be Aileen, kind of in one of the last podcasts I talk about, at college. So I do the packet that you're supposed to send out with the schedule and permission and everything, and then I write a letter, and I'm including glow-in-the-dark stars. I've got like all this stuff, and I'm like, are they going to be ready for me, So the first day of practice, I show up, and I'm ready for these 6th grade girls to be like, I don't know what's going to happen. Erin comes up to me, and she says, Coach, like basically, I really love the packet that you gave us, and I love the stars. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
And she was the one then that was the vet
who put Hattie
to help Hattie go over the rainbow. And then we were talking about magical stories.
Aww.
Magic, that this is not the end and this is a thing. So that was not my thinking. I will tell you right now, that was not my ego plan. That was Hattie's plan.
I love your expression, earth suit, when you texted me and said, I can't podcast this week because I have to bring Hattie's earth suit. I have to say, I had to get my bearing. I'm like, and then when you said she went over the rainbow, I'm like, oh, I like that earth suit. So she's just in a different suit now.
Yeah. Oh, and you'll love this too. So this does have to do with dying. So she transitioned on a Friday in Waltham with amazing Erin and all this love and history, right? She put me in the hands and the energy of exactly what I needed, right? Even though I didn't know what I needed. She needed the adventure, and she put me in the hands of someone who was perfect. Exactly. So then we go drive up. I worked. I did see a client, and then drove to Vermont, but it was dark and late. So the next day we're gonna bury her. Because for me, I think it's really important to go through the process. Like I need to see, touch, do the whole thing.
Okay.
I'm of course dreading it because I'm also like a human, right? All these things are perfectly fine. It's gonna be like the worst, and I know it, but I'm also like I'm in, and I don't like it. So we bring her earth suit right out in a wagon. The hole is dug, and so this is Saturday, and it's important for because I'm going to go back to something. So then I pull her out, and I completely forget, because like I'm in another, that I had a wonderful man come and clear a bunch of the woods behind the house.
Yeah.
It's all woods, but clear, because we're going to do a garden.
Oh, nice.
Right? So we have solar panels, because it's an off-the-grid house. And then there's a place where we've had like a bonfire area, right? And John's burning some scrub. And I come out, and I go, like, did you move the fire pit? Because I don't remember it being like so open.
Yeah.
It's because I forgot that the trees all go. I go, did you move the fire pit? And then I started laughing. I'm like, oh, no, wait. It's so open because we cleared this whole area.
Yeah. So
I'm standing there. So Hattie's earth suit, right, is on this wagon.
Yeah.
And I'm looking with John. I'm like, wow, it's so open. This is really cool and amazing. And I'm talking about how open it is. Then we bury her. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. She's actually right near the intuition that he dug the hole prior, because maybe she probably wouldn't make it through the winter and wanted to get the hole in. We're like, look at it. She's facing the house, and she's right, like, John, you picked the spot right near the garden. We're going to be out here a lot, right? So he and I are talking about the garden, and I'm talking about plants. And I'm talking about, I said, I'm a dog lover. I said, but you're a plant lover, right? So I'm talking about all this. Later Saturday, a new amazing friend of mine texts me and says, I had a dream, and someone mentioned that I should tell you about it because they think it's connected. And I was like, okay, great. Mm-hmm. And she had been focusing on me, like her and her partner, they've been focusing. It was so sweet and loving. And so she says, so my dream on Friday night, and she's a cat person, not a dog person, so this makes sense. But so in her dream, she said, I had a dream that my partner brought me a kitten and into this room that was very, very open and filled with lots and lots of plants. And the energy, she said, was great because we were playing with the kitten, and there was so much beautiful vibration. And I just remember thinking how open and spacious it was, and how many plants were growing.
This is so cool.
So time and space is an illusion. Hattie heard on Friday the story and the conversation that John and I had the next day.
Yeah.
Now she translated, when we talk about dreams.
I do want to talk about dreams after we figure out what we have for time.
Because she's a cat person, she wouldn't see a dog. Because her heart is, I love cats.
Well, she's the translator.
She's the translator. So her story, exactly right.
Yeah.
And I was like, that did tie in. So the person who told you to tell me was hooked in and knew enough, and you heard that.
Very cool.
So when we talk about, yes, this is important. All this was important in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. And then, as you and I were talking about before we came on, and we have to always be ready to drop it to move on to the next.
Right.
Right?
Right. So really quick, let me.
Yeah.
Gabriella Bella, how we doing on time?
So you guys, I found out this works.
Yeah, you fixed the mic.
You've been going for like 25 minutes.
Okay, so we'll start your.
Always
All right.
just about.
Because I wanted to talk about
Say it.
dreams.
Say it.
Well,
Yeah.
because
I know, I just
I'm
told this
asking
whole thing.
questions I don't have the answers to, so I'm on a roll.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
let's continue
Go.
to just be a podcast that doesn't solve things for you. Well, but we're just going to ask
We
questions.
poke it. There's nothing ever to
We
solve,
poking,
right?
We're just,
As Abraham, right?
There's
no
nothing
answer.
ever to
You
solve.
just keep going.
So, difficult concept to understand dreams. So, but
Yeah.
we have a limited time, and maybe we can talk more
do it
about
next
it.
time.
Abraham says they are you trying out a reality, a more tangible way of trying out a reality before you bring it into form. Other spiritual teachers will say it is an actual manifestation. Others will say it is just like a more of a Western biological way. Is it's a flushing. It's what your brain. It's a biological function of your brain, and it's a flushing. And then others will say you're detached or you're completely in your pineal, so you're actually in another dimension, playing out a scenario in one of your other planets, dimensions, lives. So, what is it?
All of it.
See, did that solve it for you? Because I'm still like,
It's all of it.
okay.
Because remember, we're multidimensional.
Okay.
So whatever one you're having, whatever dream focused interaction you're having is the dimension in which you're most focused on while you're asleep. So I had wild experiences where I was asleep and I was translating what was happening in someone else's house, a friend of mine. I was translating it, didn't even know it until the next day, where I was like, oh, I had the weirdest dream last night, and I'm talking about it, and the person was completely silent and then said, that's a conversation I was having on the phone with a friend of mine at 11 o'clock last night. I'm like, oh, that was in my dream. And then what I started to notice is the colors of that were different than my usual colors of my dreams. So then I started to, they're nuances. And when you get to sort of be like me and make it your scientific journey, and it's what I do, so it's a practice. So I can tell when I'm having someone else's thoughts, when I'm telepathically connected to someone else who's doing something on the earth plane. Another time, a friend of mine I knew was taking the late boat in from Nantucket. I'm in my dream, but I heard her open the door to her house and come in and say something when she put her keys on the table. I called her the next day and I said, I know you made it home safe and sound because you said this when you came in the door and you put your keys on the table. And she said, absolutely, yes, I did.
So I have all I can do to deal with my own dreams and my own stuff, and I don't.
Although you think they're your own dreams and your own stuff.
Oh yeah, maybe they're not. Maybe they're not. All right, so we got to wrap it up. So so we talked about lots of people leaving.
And that's not necessarily bad.
And that it's not a bad thing.
Withhold judgment.
Withholding
of what
judgment.
And
And withholding judgment of ailments.
Yeah.
And dreams. How do you want to sum up it? Can we make... So we've just asked a bunch of questions that we're not sure if we give you answers to. But can we give them anything to get through the week to think about or to play
I
with?
think what we're saying really is that there are forever incredible exploratory questions to life, and to be in the question, to be in the mystery, and accept that there are perpetual mysteries.
Right.
And it's okay.
And
you're
what I
safe
got
in the
out of it,
mystery.
that the answers change as well.
Yes.
That's what I got of it.
Beautiful.
So,
Perfect.
good luck. And as always,
More to be revealed.
Thank you for joining us on Expansive Minds podcast, Gateway to Freedom. Until next time, more to be revealed.